Anglers are furious. Some believe technology is destroying the heart of bass fishing, stripping away the skill and tradition that define the sport, and even harming our fisheries in the process. Critics argue that forward-facing sonar takes the challenge out of fishing, allowing anglers to target bass that have never faced pressure before. They claim it's driving up catch and harvest rates to unsustainable levels. Some fear this could ruin bass fishing forever. I've been fishing for over 35 years, and I've seen the sport change drastically. From rods, reels, and baits to boats, techniques, and electronics, everything has advanced our pursuit of these green and brown fish. Long before forward-facing sonar, back in 1995, advances in GPS mapping allowed anglers to explore areas far beyond the shoreline, targeting fish that had previously received little to no real pressure from anglers. Later innovations in down imaging made it easier not only to find structure and cover beneath the boat, but to see if the fish were actually on or even in the structure or cover. In 2009, side imaging gave early adopters like Kevin Van Dam a competitive edge, allowing them to locate key spots without driving the boat directly over the bass's head, which often disturbed and scattered them. This new technology shortened the time it took to find productive areas and reduced the risk of spooking the bass before the first cast. As technology continues to evolve, bass have fewer places to hide. The rise of forward-facing sonar and other advanced electronics, along with the growing popularity of high school and college fishing programs, has increased pressure on our lakes like never before. More anglers equipped with cutting-edge tools are targeting bass in ways that raise concerns about sustainability and the long-term health of our fisheries. But what does the science say? While watching the episode "Is LiveScope Ruining Fishing?", a biologist explains forward-facing sonar, from one of my favorite podcasts on YouTube, Fishing the DMV, I learned about a couple of studies conducted by the Texas Parks and Wildlife Department and presented by biologist and regional director Jake Norman. Jake shared some insightful findings from a year-long study conducted between 2022 and 2023 through creel surveys and angler interviews. These surveys were conducted on 8 different lakes across Texas, including Lake Fork, Sam Rayburn, and Lake of the Pines. The first study used simple creel surveys, which Jake says,
I always tell people creel surveys are one of our most, again, maybe understated tools and just such a useful data set.
Angler creel surveys are an essential tool used by fisheries biologists to assess fish populations and angler behavior. These surveys, typically conducted at the boat ramp or on the water, involve a set of simple questions. One of the most valuable pieces of information you can gain from these surveys is the catch rate per hour, a key metric that shows how successful anglers are over a given time period, helping assess the health of fisheries and the impact of technology like forward-facing sonar. Only a few simple questions can supply a lot of great information. For example, what are you fishing for? This identifies the target species, bass, crappie, catfish, etc. How long did you fish? How many hours did you spend chasing that species? How many fish did you catch? Gives us a total of that species caught over the given period of time. Do you have forward-facing sonar? This simple question lets us know how many anglers own the technology. How many of the fish you caught did you use forward-facing sonar to catch? This helps determine the effectiveness of the technology. These are just a small example of survey questions. Others include information on harvest, keeper size, and even money spent on the trip. By collecting this data across different lakes, fisheries managers can calculate how forward-facing sonar impacts angler success. So what does the data tell us about the effects of forward-facing sonar? First, how many anglers are using the technology versus not? It's almost a dead split. 47% of bass anglers surveyed use forward-facing sonar, and 53% did not. On the crappie side of things, 48% of anglers used forward-facing sonar, and 52% did not use the technology. Next, just what is the difference in catch rate per hour for those anglers using forward-facing sonar versus those who are not? So the difference has to be substantial, right? I mean, after all, look at all the people that leave some wonderful comments about forward-facing sonar on my channel. You know, things like cheater box or spotlighting, or you don't learn to read the water, or it takes no skill, or you don't have to learn how to find the bass or learn essential skills. I mean, after all, those people wouldn't have any clue because they've never used it, right? The fact is, as you can see in the graph, from what the majority of bass anglers would consider the gold standard in how to run a great bass fishery, the Texas Parks and Wildlife Department hit only increased catch rate for anglers with forward-facing sonar by 11 hundredths of a fish. This means that if two anglers fished for 9 hours, the angler with LiveScope would catch only one more bass than the angler without it.
Both statistically and biologically, not significant.
This is so important because I have talked about this on my show before, referring back to other sports where you're seeing the statistical advantage is in the 1%.
What about the harvest rate of bass?
Even bigger, I think, issue to look at is harvest. Bass in general, I mentioned here, especially our anglers, most of our water bodies release 90% plus of our legal fish to begin with. So if you look at our harvest rates, 0.1 for anglers using LiveScope, 0.09 for not. Again, if they're not harvesting fish, I think the big question is, does it really matter if they're using the technology or not for that species? If their harvest is ultimately probably the biggest way to, say, crash a fishery, if they're not harvesting bass, does it matter how they're, if they're still catching them with a rod and reel, does it matter? And I would say in most situations it doesn't.
So as you can see, harvest rate in bass is really meaningless because we catch and release the majority of our bass, which may not be the best thing for our fisheries either, but that's another video. If you want to talk about the crappie argument, please go to the original video from Fishing the DMV, shout out to my guy Thomas, to see the data on that. Spoiler, it has zero effect on the population. So Jake does go on to say that we need to continue studying, we need to continue to bring the numbers in to see, as most anglers get better with it and more anglers adopt the technology, how that's going to affect our bass fisheries. And I've got no argue with that. I think we should always be keeping up with our fisheries. Now, the numbers don't lie. You can argue in the comment section below all you want, but the numbers are factual from the best fisheries management in this nation. I don't want to hear the conspiracy and the emotion in the comments, because this is the facts, this is the numbers, and they don't lie. So you can continue to believe all the misinformation and all the rhetoric that's going on out there, or you can believe the truth. I don't care, but I don't want to hear about it anymore. So if you really want to hear a lot of great information, make sure you go check out Fishing with the DMV's video, which I'll put right here. As always, questions, comments in the comment section below. Like it if you like it. Don't forget to subscribe. Make sure you geeks ring that bell so you get the notifications when these videos come out. And as always, you geeks rock.